Donna Cravata, and we are back with another Real 50 Over 50 interview. And today I am introducing you to Veronica Drake, or V, and she is a spiritual life coach, an intuitive medium, and the creator of the School of Spiritual Arts. V believes that something powerful happens inside a woman when you let her out of her cage of limiting beliefs. And that is exactly what she helps women do. So, welcome, V. We are going to talk today about all kinds of things.
Girlfriend, I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you. So let's just start right up with like when you hit midlife, like what's the change that makes you learn to listen on an entirely different level?
Well, if you're me,
And we all are.
we all are, life literally blew up. Everything went to shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
Say whatever you want to say.
it did. Uh, a 22-year marriage ended. A career I was in for 15 years ended. I'd started a new one. I had made some really awful decisions, and the guilt and the shame of all of that hit me. It almost seemed simultaneously when I was in my early to mid 40s. So I always say there's 4 Ds: death, disease, disaster, or divorce. One of the D's hits you and it becomes your own personal shit show. And I think I got all of the D's in my mid 40s. So, yeah.
Oh, and so were you involved in any of this intuitive world before then?
I was actually in 1996. I had a bout with guilt and shame, and I had made some
Hmm.
choices that weren't so nice. And I decided I didn't want to live anymore. And so I went to crash my car into the side of a bridge, and it was icy and snowy. And I was going downhill, and it was full downhill. And I thought, this is it. I'm just going to slide into the wall and be done. And right in mid slide, my car stopped. I didn't do anything. My car just stopped mid slide on the ice, and my car filled up with this incredible warmth. And I felt like I couldn't fit in the car. There wasn't space for me in the car.
Oh, wow.
And I heard, "We've got you. You're not going anywhere." And my car then slid gently over to the side and just sat there, no brakes, no nothing. And I was like, what the hell was that? 1996, I had no religious understanding of anything. I wasn't spiritual. I got every spiritual book I could get. I heard "turn within," and I didn't know what that meant in the 90s. So I went to the library, I went to the bookstore, and I began to become this avid reader of anything and everything spiritual. And
And there was one.
yeah, exactly, right? And exactly. And my Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson, and Carolyn Mace were kind of leading
Mhm,
the way, more so Wayne Dyer at that time,
mhm.
who was my mentor. I actually got to meet Wayne and kiss his bald head, so that was the highlight. Uh, Neil Donald Walsh, to give credit where credit is due. But I woke up, and then when I hit my mid 40s, it's almost like, because I that was mid 30s or late 30s. When I hit mid 40s, it's almost like I forgot about it, because you get busy, you're living life, and it's like, okay, here's another shakeup for you. What do you know now? And you become very humbled when you kind of lose everything, your sense of identity, your sense of direction in professional life and personal life, and you become very humbled, and you tend to turn within. I always say my previous conversations were God with God were like when I was talking to Santa Claus as a kid. Can I please have? Can you please give me? Can you please make this happen? I learned how to have big girl conversations with the Creator, so that was the
Mm,
best thing to come out of it.
wow. And then, so like, how do you move beyond spiritual curiosity into making it part of your day-to-day
hmm
existence?
hmm I always say anybody can read a book. You read the book, you get it. Maybe you comprehend it, maybe you don't. Typically, you put the book down, But the real action is, how do you make the words on the page practical in your day-to-day life? So you can read the book, but how do you say, you know, this is what I want, and then you go ahead and you put this into practice in your life? And so doing that was making a conscious effort to be aware of who I was in each moment, you know, look fiercely at my behaviors in life, because one of the things that put me over the edge, I was not a very nice person. I was, you know, I was all about me. And I wasn't always a truth teller, mostly because I was protecting myself. But learning who I was and putting into practice what I learned, you know, the belief system. I loved A Course in Miracles. I mean, full disclosure, I never ever got through A Course in Miracles. I've read abbreviated versions, and I do pick up the book here and there. But all these little pieces come together, and you begin to be shown a way that's unique to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what I call them, spiritual breadcrumbs.
Well, I'm trying to see if I could find it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got A Course?
Well, no, it's not the Course in Miracles, but it's this little Pam Grant
Oh,
book.
yes. Yes,
But
Pam. Oh my God.
she also does A Course of Miracles. It's like the abridged version.
I love her. I love that book. And one of the things I learned from that book is the green car. You know,
Mm-hmm.
bring it forward. When's the last time you saw a green car? Well, probably
Mm-hmm.
you can't recall that, but now it's in your mind. Now
Mm-hmm.
you're going to always see a green car. So telling yourself different thoughts, right? Because what do? We loop. We go into the conditioning and we loop and we loop. And if you go in a circle, you're just not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah, I mean,
one of those simple but not easy phrases.
exactly, exactly. No, you go in a circle, you're, you know, I think of Chevy Chase in the European Vacation, where they go, there's Big Ben, there he goes, and they go round and round, right? That was kind of my life for 25 years.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. I mean, me too. I mean, I worked in a job that I hated and I didn't think there was any way out of it. And I kept, accumulating, not even just, one, but like multitudes of people that, I was absorbing all of their problems. And then one day on my ridiculous commute, that is time I would never reclaim. I just realized all of these problems that were rattling through my head on that circle, none of them were mine.
No.
And I pulled them all out and I said, what's left? It was like, it
Yeah,
was very peaceful in there. So I started
exactly.
to eliminate people in droves.
And that's what I say. I am a no drama zone.
Yeah.
I'm no drama, and if it ain't simple, I ain't doing it.
Hmm.
And I believe simplicity is a matter of a state of mind. You can look at something and you can see it as simple or complicated, right? Like,
Hmm.
there's always going to be a way to do it simply. And again, that's a mindset. So primarily before I started this business, I worked in dentistry for 15 years. I was the financial person in the office, and I collected the money and I sold the dentistry and all of that. And I found people would be coming in 30 to 40 minutes earlier for their dental appointment. And, dentists are notorious for you waiting in the waiting room anyway. They would come in 30 to 40 minutes earlier to sit in the office with me and talk.
Hmm.
And I just was like, well, there's something here, right? They're attracted to me, but it's
It's
not
not the
me.
dentistry.
Yeah. That's another story. Uh, but they were attracted to me, but it wasn't me. It was the light coming through me that they were looking for.
That you couldn't even see yet.
Right, exactly. But this is all hindsight. Remember, 2020 hindsight.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So now one of the things that I saw when I was poking around on your website was unlocking your heart's wisdom.
Mm, yeah. There, there is, I believe who we are is in our heart. And I believe that's the soul. So the soul, the essence of who we are, is in our heart. But a lot of times our heart gets clouded and it gets muddied over with, again, things that the brain tells it, right? Because we give full power, full reign to our brains. And the brain is wonderful, but the brain only knows what you program into it. The heart is programmed by something bigger than you are. The feelings in the body feelings in the body are the language of the soul. And our bodies will never lie to us. If something's not right in your life, you will always know. I always get a contraction or an expansion in my heart space. So again, knowing yourself and learning to feel the feels is important. They are showing scientifically now there is a head heart connection. The Heart Math Institute shows you have to be coherent in head and heart if you're going to make a life that makes sense or is intuitively or divinely led.
Yeah.
And that's scientifically proven now.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I fully believe it. I've lived it.
yeah.
I mean, my heart was so hardened from, just being mistreated from before birth and disregarded in so many ways. And it took a lot to let down the armor.
Yeah, yeah. But we don't see it. It's like the fish that swims in water. The fish doesn't know it's in water until it gets out of water, right?
Yeah.
Like we had to get glimpses of something. And I mean, I'm going to make a blanket statement here and I probably shouldn't, but I don't think you're ready for this until you're in your early to mid 40s. And I will be honest with you and tell you, I didn't hit my stride until I was 50. I'm 62.
Yeah.
I didn't hit my stride. And I mean, spiritually, mentally, physically, all of it until I was in my early 50s.
Yeah, same. I think I'm not a demographics person, and I'm not, like the irony of having a live stream called The Real 50 Over 50. But I really believe what matters is what you value, what you care for, and this is how people connect, not
Mhm.
what age you are or where you live or the color of your skin or any of that. I think
Right.
it's about your heart. It all really comes from there. And but I didn't know any of that until
Yeah.
I had the space to really see it. And, that happens when, it happens after you start eradicating all the things from your life and starting to remember. Like, one of the things that has become very clear to me, both through my work and through this project, is that what we go through at this stage of life is not a reinvention because there's nothing wrong with us. I think that is just all a big pile of bullshit that's being
Uh,
fed to us by the people that want to sell us things. Okay. It's not a reinvention, it's a remembering, because this is the first time, maybe in our life, that we have the space and the opportunity and I'm even going to say the luxury to reclaim the parts of ourselves that were either taken from us without our permission or that we gave away freely without realizing what we were doing because we just weren't taught. We weren't taught what to hold dear. We just weren't.
Absolutely. I love that you said remembering because remember who you are is to reconnect to the members of where you came from.
Yeah.
The spark that created you. So remembering is key to all of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are you? When we ask the question, who are you? Well, I'm a mom, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are you? Who
Yeah.
really are you?
And until you could start to answer those questions, you can't explore deeper because there's just no space to do it.
Right.
There is no space to do it. I remember being in my early 40s and somebody was trying to help me on a spiritual path. And I was just, I don't have time for this nonsense. Like all that was going through my head was like
Yeah.
laundry, food, kids, schedule,
Yeah.
car, my oil needs to be changed. I mean, like
We're not
all
ready. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a laundry list of literal laundry list of things that needed to be done, and, none of it was about me, but now looking back, I can see incrementally, um, the points where I got brave
Mhm. Yeah.
and I made a decision. I made a choice, and I was like, "Nope, no more."
Yeah.
And most of it had to be cutting people out of my life
You
unapologetically.
I agree with you. The season of release and letting go.
Ooh. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about those seasons too.
Yeah. Do my life and my business on the flow of the seasons, right? And the elements, earth, air, wind, fire, and the season. We're in the season of winter, right? So we're hunkering down, we're hibernating right now. And in this space, it doesn't have to be doing, doing, doing. We're here to be, right? In this space. And when you're in this space of hibernation, notice what it feels like to be. Don't
Mhm.
pressure yourself. The bear that hibernates, he doesn't have to worry about going out and finding food. And, he's just totally hunkered down. The flower that has lost its beauty on the top, it's still there. It's still nurtured underneath the ground. You will always be nurtured. You will always be nurtured. There's always an energy that flows through you because it's part of you. And so you're not going to miss anything. You're not going to lose anything. One of the things I find really sad in the work I do, um, I people want women especially boundaries. Struggle with boundaries, right? And so I teach how to create boundaries, but we create boundaries off of values. And so I'll say to the group, um, "What are your top 5 values?" Most women can't rattle them off.
They can't.
They
They
don't. They
can't.
And
I
I was
that's
I couldn't.
that's one
Yeah.
of the first things in my group program. What we do is first we do a North Star exercise,
Mhm.
and then we do Brene Brown's values exercise.
Mm.
Because until you understand what you value, you can't match somebody else's value.
Yeah, you really. And the other thing with value is, how do you know what is sacred and what you wanna protect?
Yeah. It becomes like a barometer
That I
that you
just
can
used that word
hold
in my class.
everything up with. You
I
can hold everything up to this and say, "All right, this is what I value. Where does this fall
Yeah,
on this barometer?" And, if it's down there, it's like, "Okay, see ya."
yeah, and the barometer is gonna give you the whole big picture, like,
Yeah,
how does this all come together?
true.
And when she understands what she values and she has the ability to protect it with her boundary, you
Well,
know
not just like, could I just add to that for a sec?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
not just protected, but it's respected.
Respect it. Respect it and protect it.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Yeah,
because nobody else is gonna respect that value
right,
unless you do.
right, exactly. And nobody gets to say what you value. There's
Yeah,
no right or wrong.
no, and you know what I love taking people through that exercise? When you really push them to it, because first they're gonna just rattle off the things that sound
Yeah.
good to them, right? They're doing keyword analysis, right? But then when they start to really use it as a barometer and say, how does this stand up? How does this value stand up? And you get them to get down to 2 or
Mhm.
3, then shit gets real, right?
Yeah.
And it changes somebody when they see what they really value because they think it's something, but usually the thing that they initially think isn't their value, it's a tactic.
Yeah. I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's like you need to become a walking billboard for what you value.
Yeah.
And I also find, I love storytelling. I love
Mhm.
speaking. I love getting on the stage. I love telling stories. And I'll tell you a quick story. I was speaking and I walked off the stage and out the corner of my eye, I could see this woman. She was flying at me. And I thought, oh my God, she's going to knock me down, right? She jumps in front of me. She sticks her hand out and she says, "Hi, I'm Betty, the ex-mayor of so-and-so. You know, the one that embezzled the money? Well, I paid it back. I went to jail. I did my time. All this." And I went, "Whoa, whoa, 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 Betty, Betty,
Slow
Betty,
down.
Betty, slow down, girl." And the example is we're all introducing ourselves with our story, not as blatantly as Betty, but we all are.
Yeah.
And Betty said to me, "What do I have to do to find a man? I'm ready for a and my answer, because I'm a smartass, my answer was, "Whoa, Betty, you need an opening story. You need a new one. You need to figure that out." Like, but seriously, I always use Sweet Betty, because you meet somebody, and if you're cognizant of it and you're looking for it, they're going to show you their story.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't see their story, this is an exercise that never lets me down. Go look at your Facebook feed. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to see what you value and who you are and what you think about the world, go look at your Facebook feed, because it's going to tell you a lot about who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's an eye opener, and sometimes women cringe and they're like, "Oh my God." Well, you have the power to change that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep, yep.
That's a great tip. So did Betty change her story?
I lost track of Betty. She kind of walked away from me, and she was happy, and she was gonna, I don't know that Betty was ready to tell the story. I think,
Mm,
to retell the story.
yeah,
But a lot of people are looking to blame somebody for their story.
yeah.
I know that, because I was a victim for 35 years. I know it well. I'm a recovering victim. I
Mhm.
think we all have that potential to slide back into that energy at any given moment, just like an alcoholic could slide right back into the drink, right?
Mm,
So I'm mindful of every story I tell is what role am I playing in this story? What's my responsibility here in this story?
yeah.
Am I telling it from a place of love and growth, or am I telling it from a place of vindictiveness and get even, that kind of thing? Just to live mindfully.
I also think, when we settle a little bit into self-trust and
Mm.
self-awareness, we learn to listen differently, not just to our inner
Oh,
selves, but we learn to listen to others differently too. And then I think what happens is, I kind of know what happens. The conversations that we have are a reflection back to what we're listening to. They're not, just sitting and waiting to say the next thing. Um, and I mean, that's wisdom right there. That's wisdom in
oh,
action.
oh yeah. And a woman in her 50s or 50 plus, her experience is her wisdom. She's coming into her crone years. And I think there's a responsibility that goes with that we should be looking at. How do we impart this wisdom to the ancestors, to the generations? What do we do with
Yeah.
this? Not to tell them what to do, but to be
No.
the example of what's coming, if you will, for them,
Mhm.
should they choose to partake in it. Because it's all optional, right? Like, it's all optional.
And, well, like, when I first stumbled upon this project, one of the things that I did was keyword research, and the keywords that were coming up for women over 50, or reinvention was another word that I put in there, but it was all about lack. It was hair, makeup, clothes, what not to do, how your life is gonna be over, and I was furious. I was
Mm,
absolutely furious, because I realized that, you know, big organizations and companies and governments are all using the same tools that I was using to figure out how to speak to this market of women, and it wasn't true.
right.
And, you know, it's not just them. It's, women that are in their 20s and their 30s, our daughters, our younger sisters, our cousins, our friends' daughters. They're all hearing that same thing.
Yeah.
And you're right, we do have a responsibility to show them that that's not true, that you can do whatever you want to do. I have people that are part of this community that are deep into their 70s and starting over in some way or another. And
I
it's
love
just
it.
beautiful to watch. It's just
I,
beautiful to
I
watch.
have to tell you, there has never been a better time in my life than in
Mm,
my 60s.
yeah.
There's one of my number one values, or actually my number one value is freedom.
Mhm.
And there's such a freeing feeling to just let your shit fly,
Yeah.
right? I used to do the nails and the hair, and I'd think nothing of dropping $200 on a pair of shoes. Mind you, $200 I didn't have, but that was going to make me
Mhm,
feel better because, it was all
mhm,
about the shoes. And then when it wasn't the
mhm,
shoes, it was the couch, and then it was the
mhm.
car, and then it was, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, this, now it's like I can't be bothered I don't want to color my hair, I don't want to do my nails. Most days I have pajamas on. Get that luxury because it's what I want. It's what
Yeah,
I want, So there's freedom in getting older.
there
Definitely.
is. Well, I mean, and it all goes back to the learning how to trust yourself, the learning how to listen to yourself. And this isn't magic.
No, no, no,
So
no.
can you speak to that a little bit, like the practicality of it?
Yeah. This
And
is not magic. This is done with heartfelt awareness. It's done with a deep reverence for something bigger than you are. And it's done with simplicity. If it's hard, you're trying way too much. Because when you can slip into the most natural version of yourself and you can be okay with who she is, and you can see a glimpse of that, you're going to want more, and you're going to want more, and you're going to want more.
yeah.
I would never think of leaving my house without makeup.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Ever. You should see me some days I go to the grocery store. I'm like, like this is sticking up, and I've got no makeup on, and it's like, oh my God, do we get zits at 60? I mean, seriously, like it's like I'm looking and I'm thinking, and then and part of me goes, "What are you looking at?" Like look at it. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I'm beautiful."
I know, like, when I was still working in my job, like, I would be on a 7 AM train and, like but I was up at 5:30 primping and
Yeah. Oh,
getting myself ready, and then I'd go work, like, a 12 to 14-hour day, come home, and, like, start over again the next day, and I did that for years,
a rat
decades.
race, right? I can remember my first wrinkle. I was probably in my late 30s, and I was driving to work one day, and the sun was coming in from the east, and I didn't have bangs at that time, and there was this wrinkle that went down like the
Mhm.
forehead, and I went, "Oh, a sheet mark," and I'm doing this, and I'm trying, and and then I go through the light stops, and I'm going, "All right, I'm going to rub the sheet mark out." I get to work, I forget about it because I'm working. I go in the bathroom at work, and I'm like, "Fuck, the sheet mark didn't go away."
It keeps coming back.
Like, oh my God, I can't get rid of the sheet mark. I literally thought it was a sheet mark.
And now they're earned, right?
Yes, exactly. Now these are wisdom lines, right? Laugh lines. I mean, I will have a million laugh lines forever. I love to laugh. I love childlike wonderment. I love to surround myself with people who are curious,
Yeah.
who will question status quo in a respectful way. And I never want to be the smartest person in the room.
No, no,
Ever, ever. It's no fun. It's
no,
no fun.
no. When I was, little, I was always looking for ways to kind of survive because it was really hard.
Mhm.
And, one of the things that I started doing, I must have been about 7 or 8 years old, because we didn't have any kind of religion or anything. My mom was Jewish, my dad was a Catholic, but he left when I was born, basically. And then the Jewish side of the family, we were just half-breeds, so they didn't really, they didn't they just there was no real attachment there. So, we had no religion, we had no belief system, we had no anything, and I felt like I needed something. So I was like, "Well, what matters?" And, I I always valued learning, and I always valued helping people. So I said, "Okay, so every day what I'm gonna do is I will not go to sleep until I learn something new and until I help somebody." And I've been doing that every day of my life since I'm like 7 or 8 years old, and I taught my son the same thing because, I wasn't gonna go, create a religion for him, and I didn't like the ones that were there.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
said, "Let's just do this instead." And that's what we do.
yeah, that's
That's what we
beautiful.
do, and, I think that that's the crux of what all of these religions are anyway, right?
Oh, I agree.
We're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
We're supposed to be.
That's a whole nother, that's a
That's another hour and a half.
big conversation, yeah.
But, I mean, we get to choose, and that's a really good place to be.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, we are at 30 minutes already.
Oh my gosh, it flies, right?
Oh, doesn't it? When we're just having a little chit chat. Um, I like to end these calls, these interviews, with asking my guests to provide a wisdom bomb, something small, actionable, but carries some impact with it. What do you got?
It involves a 4-year-old and a dandelion. My little 4-year-old grandson came running across the field and he said, Nanny, I have a flower for you. And it was a dandelion. And he had it so tight in his little hand because he didn't want to lose it. And he gave it to me and he was holding it so tight, the head popped off of the dandelion. So the moral of the story is if you value something, if you love something, hold it gently. You don't have to squeeze it. You don't have to kill it. You don't have to strangle it. Just hold it gently. Because
Mhm.
if it's meant to survive, it'll survive.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you for coming and spending some time today,
I love
sharing your stories and your wisdom. And everybody, please connect with Veronica at veronicadrake.com. And she's also on our Real 50 Over 50 webpage. And we'll be back again every Wednesday. I think we're booked all the way into August now with more. So have a wonderful Wednesday, everybody. If you are watching the replay, tag us with comments, questions, ideas, thoughts, and we'll come back and keep the conversation going. And we will see you again next Wednesday. And thank you, Veronica.
Thank you. Bye.